In this video, I'll be explaining player damage mechanics and terms. The title should be pretty self-explanatory anyway. I won't be providing timestamps, because I personally believe that the information included in this video is too important for people to just skip it with ease. Some parts of it are not going to make sense if you don't have the knowledge from the previous part. I don't usually do stuff like this, but yeah, watch the entirety of the video. You'll feel your brain grow at the end of it. Here's a table of contents so you have a rough idea of how the video is going to go. I will also include examples of how stuff works using DSOD enemy numbers, and give practical reasons to my recommendations. This video exists so you can understand the in-game mechanics, how they interact with one another, and the math behind it so you can make your own builds and have fun doing it. All of these mechanics are simple, but they add up and feed each other. I won't be talking about each and every perk deck individually. There will be examples concerning perk decks when it is necessary though. This video may seem complicated, but everything I will be mentioning here is really easy to grasp provided you are listening. Still, if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below. It starts with... I'm getting these two out of the way first, since the following two chapters are affected by these two elements as well. Payday 2 has two different mechanics to reduce incoming damage done to players. Damage reduction, aka DR, and damage absorption, aka DA. I can already see you thinking, what's the difference? Damage reduction is percentage based, while damage absorption is a flat decrease to incoming damage. I'm going to tackle damage reduction first, since it's the more relevant one of the two. Damage reduction cuts down the incoming damage by a certain percentage based on your skill allocation. Skills such as Frenzy, Quick Fix Aced, and Underdog Aced work this way. Frenzy Basic reduces damage by 10%, and Aced is 25%. Math for doing damage is really simple. You take the incoming damage and reduce it by a percentage. 25% reduction from Frenzy Aced means you can simply just multiply the incoming damage by 0.75 and find the damage you will take. It is simple math, really. Nothing too complicated. What is complicated about it is stacking different damage reduction skills. Most players think that damage reduction skills are additive, meaning they add on top of each other, but this is just entirely wrong. Damage reduction skills are not additive, they're multiplicative. So let's say you have both Quick Fix Aced and Underdog Aced active at the same time. The math for it is still simple. You take the incoming damage and run the same equation but with more skills. Both Quick Fix and Underdog Aced give a 10% damage reduction, so they equate to 0.9 damage multiplier. You take your incoming damage and do this equation. More skills added on top mean more of the same equation. You're basically multiplying the incoming damage and every individual resistance skill you have all at once. The result shown in the calculator will be the damage you will take. The multiplication is done on a skill-by-skill basis, so Frenzy's 25% is separate to Quick Fix's 10%. Since the damage reduction is a multiplication, the order you multiply the different resistances doesn't change the result, so you can put the 10% of Quick Fix first, and then the 25% of Frenzy. Damage absorption cuts down the incoming damage by a flat number. The math for it is still simple. Let's take the only good example of damage absorption working well, Maniac. With full stacks, Maniac gives 48 damage absorption, so you need to take the incoming damage and subtract 48. Unlike damage reduction, damage absorption stacking is additive, so if you run Maniac with Force Friendship Aced, you'll end up with 52 damage reduction, assuming you are meeting the skill's requirements. Absorption is also shown on your HUD, not like you should ever pay attention to it since it's incredibly vague. But how does damage reduction and absorption stack? It's simple. If you ever went to school, they might have taught you the equation order. Multiplying and dividing takes priority over adding and subtracting, assuming there are no parentheses. It works the same way here. The game makes the multiplying calculation first, and then subtracts the absorption to calculate the damage you take. It really is simple. Both damage reduction and absorption cut the damage you take universally, for both health and armor. That being said, Forced Friendship Aced is a terrible skill that has one use case in the entire game, and even then it's situational. Don't use this skill ever.
Health. Pipe.
We will be covering the health mechanics first, since they're simpler to understand. Your health is indicated in the HUD by the green circle. You take damage to your health, it goes down. Run out of health, and you go down. Shocking, I know. Health is extremely simple to understand. However, there are a few things that need explaining. The first thing I want to touch on is Partners in Crime Aced. If you convert a cop with the skill equipped, you will get a 30% health bonus. This bonus doesn't work the way you suspect. The skill never takes the health bonus or malice you get from perk decks. It always takes the base health value of 230 while running the equation. So the skill will always give you 69 health, no matter the perk deck you're using. So don't take Leech's 414 base health and give it a 13% health boost on top. That's just not how Mafia works. Always add 69 to the base health you already have, regardless of the perk deck. Another thing I want to mention is Crew Chief. Crew Chief's hostage situation also takes only the base health of 230 into account, same as Partners in Crime. So every hostage you take as Crew Chief only adds 13.8 health to your pool. This can stack up to 4 times, so do your calculations accordingly. Since I mentioned the 13.8 health gain, I should also get this out of the way. The game doesn't like to round the damage numbers and health you gain when it comes to damage player takes or receives. There is a graduality for the damage that players deal, but that is out of the scope of this video. Another thing I want to mention is bleed out health. When you go down, you enter a bleed out mode that has its own health pool. This pool is always 100 health, regardless of the actual health value you have. 9 lives basic increases this to 150. However, the damage resistance and absorption still apply during this period. Still, it's considered to be mostly useless on DSOD, so don't think about it too much. There aren't many of them, and they work the way the game tells you in their description. Hostage Taker works on a percentage-based value of your current health. It does take into account different skills or perks you have, so the value of this skill increases the more health you have in your build. The same works for the Muscle Innate Health Regen. The rest of the health regen skills work the way the description says in-game. Hacker gives 20, Tag Team does this eeny miny mo. Armor is a bit more complicated than health. However, it's not rocket science either. There are a few key differences on how it functions, and don't worry, we will be touching all of them. Your armor is indicated on your HUD with a white circle around your health. Unlike health, armor is a dispensable resource that always comes back after a certain amount of time, assuming you're not taking damage or suppressed, but we'll get to that. Armor regen speed, at its base, is 3 seconds, but can be cut down by skills and perk deck effects. The way armor regen speed is calculated is relatively simple. The game takes your base regen speed and multiplies it with a percentage change of a particular skill. For example, Resilience Basic cuts down the armor regen by 15%. This is a 0.85 multiplier. So take 3 seconds and multiply by 0.85. Any additional regen speed skills are also added to the equation in a multiplicative manner. So taking Shock and Awe, which is a 25% decrease in regen time, equates you a 0.75 multiplier. Then you put it next to Resilience Basic's bonus and do the math. Whenever you regenerate armor, the game will play a sound cue to let you know that your armor is back up. The HUD shows the armor filling up at a fast rate. However, all your armor comes back instantly when the regen timer is done. It's a purely cosmetic effect. The skill descriptions are surprisingly accurate when it comes to armor regen, so I won't be giving too many examples. We have a lot to cover in this video anyway. Since the armor regen skills are a multiplication, the order you add up the skills doesn't change the result, just like how damage reduction is calculated. One thing to mention is that playing CrimeNet offline sets your base armor regen time to 1.7 seconds instead of the usual 3 seconds, so just keep that in mind. Your armor can't regenerate while you're actively taking damage or getting shot. Meet armor suppression, the most annoying mechanic in the game in my very humble and correct opinion. Whenever a cop aims and shoots at you, you can't regenerate armor, but the armor regen doesn't reset to whatever your base regen is after the skills and stuff, oh no. Whenever you get suppressed, the game will add a flat 1 second to your armor regen timer. This 1 second isn't affected by skills, so let's say you have Resilience and Shock and Awe Basic in your build. Your armor regen will be around 1.9 seconds. If you get suppressed, it'll be 2.9 seconds and a small delay just to be sure you're no longer getting shot or something. And if something aims at you and shoots you, even through walls, it's back to 2.9 seconds, baby. This mechanic is a relic from the past, when the game was much less ridiculous, and it stayed the same. This is a mechanic I think should change, but this is not a balance video, so moving on. The most important functionality of armor is armor gating. Gating is a mechanic in every game ever released that prevents excessive amounts of damage in the player's favor. Payday 2 has the armor gating effect. The gist is that no matter how much damage you sustain to your armor, the excess damage can't spill over to your health. Let's say you're running a dodge build with Suit. A heavy Zeal shoots you for 225 damage. You only lose 20 armor, and the rest of the excess damage is ignored. Let's say you have 1 armor and you take 1 billion damage. You will only lose that 1 armor. Yeah, it is as powerful as it sounds. This is the primary survival method that many players utilize. If you're going to peek into a line of fire, make sure you have some armor up to prevent excessive amounts of damage to your health. Health is a much more precious resource, so try to save it for the situations that count. The bullseye skill in the tank tree is invaluable to have on nearly every deck. What this skill does is that you regenerate 5 or 25 armor depending on if you ace the skill or not when you get a headshot. Let's bring up the Suit example again. You get shot by a heavy Zeal for 225 damage and lost your 20 armor. But now you use your gun and headshot someone. You don't need to kill, just a headshot is enough. And so you regenerate 5 armor. This 5 armor can stop another heavy Zeal shot to your health. Most of the time, basic version of Bullseye is enough for nearly every deck. The only mainstream benefit of the aced version is Anarchist, and some other specific socio-maniac setups. Even if you didn't listen to a word of what I said, I want you to listen to this very closely. Get Bullseye on nearly every build. It saves a ton of damage done to your health over the course of a heist. I'm going to repeat myself, and I want you to hear the sincerity in my voice. Get Bullseye. Armor gating is extremely powerful, and being able to trigger the effect by regenning armor, basically on command, is invaluable. There are 2 exceptions that bypass armor gating: environmental damage and snipers, so watch out for those.
I'm fucking invincible!
Before I talk about how this mechanic functions, I want to get one thing out of the way, mainly for some of the more experienced players. For those experienced players that are listening, stop complaining about Grace. Grace is not bugged in any way, and it's working as intended. So don't go blame a mechanic most players don't know about to cover your bad play. It just makes you look stupid for those who know how things work, and you teach the wrong lesson to less experienced players that don't know how everything works, which is worse. One of the worst examples I have of this effect is here with 200 hours at the game, blamed Grace on Uncle's stream when he died on Alaskan Deal. I can't be arsed to find a VOD for it since it was a few months back, but basically ran into a freshly spawned spawn group and died. He didn't wait for an opening, or clear the way, or move with the rest of the team, and he typed Grace into the in-game chat. If you're one of the experienced players that blames Grace when you die, stop. I'm dead fucking serious about it. It's okay to make bad plays. We're all human, we're not perfect. But blaming Grace whenever you die doesn't make you look any better as a player, plus you're influencing newer players that are still learning the ropes in a negative way.
Ah, shit! Ah, this was a bad move. I'm just gonna get shot to death now. Oh wait, I have an idea. I can blame Grace Period like the guy with 8 hours did. This should make me look better as a player, right? This wasn't even my fault. The game just sucks.
Guys, I was graced.
While this problem happens way less today, I always wanted to give my take on this publicly. If you're still blaming Grace, stop it please. Now that that's out of the way, let's look into one of the more obscure mechanics in the game. Don't worry, it's pretty simple. Grace Period is a mechanic in this game that grants invincibility frames after an enemy connects a hit. This invincibility period is 0.45 seconds on difficulties below Overkill, and 0.35 seconds on Mayhem and above. It literally is how it sounds. The game grants you free invulnerability every time an enemy connects a hit. If another enemy connects a hit during this period, the damage will be completely ignored, with a single exception which I will get into later. When this invincibility timer triggers, it protects you till that secret 0.35 second timer runs out. This timer can't be refreshed in any way, since the grace period only triggers when an enemy connects a hit, and grace period stops anything from connecting in the first place. You can't theoretically not take any damage just by abusing this mechanic. If you want to test how effective this mechanic is to prevent excessive amounts of damage, stand in front of a heavy zeal. Heavy zeals in this game shoot a 2-shot burst, totaling a potential damage output of 450 damage. However, you never take 450 damage from a single heavy unit, do you? It's because the second shot the heavy zeal fires is always blocked by the grace period. This time it protects you from any damage with 2 exceptions. The easiest exception to understand is environmental damage. This means explosions, nerve gas, and flame on some maps can go straight through it. The other exception is the cause of all the salt and tears. When I said grace period prevents enemies from connecting a hit, I also talked about an exception to this rule. If an enemy connects a hit during the grace period, and if that damage is higher than the shot that triggered the grace period, you will take damage like in any other game. Okay, here's an example. If you get shot by a shield for 70 damage, the grace period will only protect you from 70 damage and below for 0.35 seconds. So during that time, if a heavy zeal connects a shot, that 225 damage will ignore this invincibility period, and you will take the damage normally. This 225 damage will trigger its own grace period too, so now you will be protected against 225 damage and below for 0.35 seconds. You shouldn't be worrying about your grace period being ignored that much. The timer is less than half a second, and you can't reasonably keep track of every shot you take. The grace period itself will help you in the background more than the single exception can hurt you. Don't peek spawn groups with multiple different damage dealers without killing the ones that can shoot you and trigger a lower value grace period, or without a backup strategy. You have a ton of options to prevent dying to grace. You have first aid kits, 2 seconds of invulnerability, the concept of cover, concussions, split the group up, or just relocate. Simply keeping your health topped off will likely prevent you from dying to grace ignore if you choose to play risky. The time of 0.35 seconds of invincibility may sound underwhelming at first, but you have to think of it this way. It is nearly half a second, and it adds up during a standard heist. Grace period always triggers whether you take armor or health damage, or dodge, but we'll get to that. Seems obvious, but I thought I have to mention it. If you're still not convinced how useful grace period is, I suggest checking out this mod and just try to play a single DSOD heist with your generic anarchist AR-SMG build. Rest assured, it is not going to be a fun experience, since the amount of damage you have to deal with will go up around 3 or 4 times over the course of a heist.
Kara and Uncle are not the good guys as they say they are. They are actually sus imposters.
Dude, no way it's Carrot and me again. What the fuck? It's always Carrot and me.
Drama isn't a mechanic that governs how you take damage, but it is a mechanic that works with the damage you take, so I'm going to include in this video. Drama is a mechanic that influences the assault phases. There are many different assault phases for various purposes, such as control, build, anticipation, sustain, and fade. Among these assault phases, drama interacts with anything but sustain. Drama goes up by a certain percentage when you get tased, cloaked, downed, incapacitated, or you guessed it, taking damage, and it maxes out at 100. The equation used for determining how much drama you gain upon taking damage is shown on screen. Keep in mind that this equation only uses the damage you take, so gating excess damage by armor means the equation will only use the armor amount you've lost. So taking a heavy zeal for 225 damage with your 20 armor means that only 20 damage will be taken into account. The most useful application of drama is a technique called drama abuse. This technique revolves around players intentionally taking damage repeatedly in order to increase the drama. Increasing drama affects how long the fade section of the assault is going to last. The gist is, the more drama you have, the longer the fade is. During fade, cops stop spawning, and you only have the enemies that are already spawned and occupy the map to deal with. The cops that are not engaging with the players are tasked to leave the map too, so you can have breathing time to do objectives by utilizing the fades of the assaults by drama abusing. Keep in mind that any damage you take is taken into this equation, health and armor. However, health is a much more precious resource, so drama abuse is often done by taking damage to armor and regenerating it. 2-shot armor setups are perfect for this technique. However, if your drama is over 95, the game will pull a funny prank on you. If you have over 95 drama, the next assault will begin immediately after the fade ends. Yes, it's stupid, and yes, it's a design flaw, but just keep that in mind. The equation also takes into account any resistances you have in your build, so getting resistance skills are technically a less efficient way to abuse drama. However, the difference is so small, it's more like personal preference. The highest theoretical fade you can get is 82 seconds. However, this means you have to keep your drama near 100 nearly all the time, which means the next assault will start as soon as the fade ends. Don't think about it too much, however. Getting a 2-shot armor setup basically guarantees longer fades, provided you are getting shot. There are other factors that influence the fade duration, but as far as player damage is concerned, this is where we end this chapter. I may cover assault mechanics in a future video. I've run out of quirky segments, so I'll get straight to the point. Dodge is a mechanic that negates... Oh, hi Bay, what are you doing here?
I'm sorry to inform you that I am taking over.
What do you mean you're taking over? This is my video. Ow, 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 whoa, stop it!
Now that Carrot is dead, we can continue where we left off. There's a reason why I saved Dodge for the last. Dodge is probably the least understood damage mechanic in the game, maybe tied with Grace. How Dodge itself works is relatively simple. Game rolls a number between 1 and 100 and compares to your dodge chance. If the game rolls a number that is higher than your dodge chance, you get hit. If it is lower, you dodge the shot. Okay, here's an example. You're using Rogue, without any other damage increasing skills, so you have 50 dodge. The game rolls 30, so you dodge the shot. Another shot comes in, the game rolls 60, so you take damage. Keep in mind that dodge roll always happens, whether or not you have enough dodge to make a difference. Even if you use ICTV Armorer, the dodge chance is still rolled, though your dodge is so low that you will always take damage. That is the gist of it. Dodge works in tandem with other damage mechanics that we already talked about and has some special rules which I will get into later. But before I do that, I have to debunk some community misconceptions that revolve around dodge. I will be as fast and blunt as I can. First misconception: dodge doesn't work for me. Dodge isn't picky about you or anyone else. Dodge will either work or not on a shot-by-shot basis. In fact, as long as you have 5 dodge, not dodging anything over the course of a heist is nearly impossible. Let's say you have 5 dodge, and you dealt with 150 shots over the course of a heist. Not dodging anything has a chance of 0.000455549,745% of happening. Compared to dodging 5% of 150 shots, which is this, I'm not gonna read that, is a smaller number. And this is just 5 dodge. Now imagine more of it. Second misconception: having X amount of dodge doesn't mean you will dodge the X amount during the heist. This statement is often used to make dodge look worse than it actually is. If you have X amount of dodge, you will dodge close to X% amount of shots over the course of a heist is a better way to word this statement. If you have 50 dodge, you will dodge the average of 50% of the shots you should normally take. This happens because something called probability, or more commonly known as math. Here's a probability chart that shows the number of shots you should have dodged out of 200 in a percentage if you were to have 50 dodge. Notice how the biggest probability of numbers of shots dodged is stacked near 50%. That is because if you have 50 dodge, you will dodge close to 50% of the shots you should have take. And this is static dodge. Picking duck and cover aced makes the end result shoot over 50% in around 2 to 7%. Admittedly, my sample size for duck and cover statement is relatively small, because I'm a single person. You can draw your own conclusions using my friend SG's dodge count mod. Dodge can't be relied on at any point is another argument that this chart proves otherwise. If you know the fact that you are negating that many shots over the course of a heist, how can't you make a good play with it? In fact, in the worst case scenario, with the absolute shittiest RNG, you will dodge to 24.49994402, 25% of the shots with 50 dodge. In fact, dodging less than that isn't nearly impossible, it is actually impossible. Just knowing that you will negate around 50% of the damage you should have taken with most of the time is enough to make good plays. Also, dodging more than 75-ish is also impossible with 50 static dodge. Not particularly important, but I think it's fun to mention it. All the numbers and stuff is hard-coded science unless I stated otherwise. Dodge isn't good, you are better off using insert deck. This statement is often used by people to push their own playstyles and experiences to other people, and it is also wrong. Dodge builds have lower skill floor than anything else in the game, except maybe Leech. If someone is asking for a dodge build, the type of build that negates truckloads of damage, do you really believe that person can do well with a build that doesn't negate truckloads of damage? They can't do well with the build that negates truckloads of damage. Don't push your preferences to other people. I probably did the same thing at some point, but take it from me. Letting people discover stuff on their own is more fun for them and you. So just give them the info they ask for. If they ask something else, give that too. Preferably the easier path instead of arguing hostage taker isn't good for Kingpin, you know who you are. And if you are still not convinced by facts and logic, maybe you should shut the fuck up about it. Dodge on its own is a very powerful attribute to have. Negating any damage is useful, and the amount you negate with Scario, Rogue, and Hacker is pretty generous. However, Dodge's benefits are not obvious to many people. Dodge not only negates damage, but also interacts with the most of the damage mechanics that I talked about in this video. I won't be repeating the info that I already talked about. I am trusting you to connect the dots on your own. The first and most obvious benefit of Dodge is not taking damage. Shocker, I know. But no one really thinks of this way. Negating damage means you lose less armor and health over the course of a heist. This may need some elaboration, so bear with me. Health is a precious resource. You don't want to spend that willy-nilly. While armor is disposable, it has its limitations in the form of regen rules. Dodge makes it so that your health has further security by cutting the limitations of armor. The window you have to get a headshot for bullseye is usually pretty small. However, Dodge extends that time, letting you play more aggressively. Since you can still dodge while you have armor up, it makes you less dependent on armor gating and tanking as a whole, though armor gating is ungodly when combined with dodge. When I said dodge interacts with most of the damage mechanics, I meant it. This benefit may surprise you if you are a one-down veteran that witnessed the old glory of Rogue, but hear me out. Dodge works with grace periods. Dodging a shot calls the same functions for taking damage normally, so you still get the benefit from invincibility frames by dodging a shot. Normally you take damage and grace period triggers, but if you dodge, you get the same benefit for free. All the rules are the same, but not taking damage by dodge is added to the mix. You can dodge any shot, mind you, grace ignoring shots included. If you want to visualize how good this can get, rewind to the part where I talked about grace period and add dodge to my words. Actually, let me do it myself. A shield shoots you for 70 damage and you dodge it. Now you are protected for 70 damage and blow for 0.35 seconds. So during that time, if a heavy shoots you, the damage will go straight through it, though you can still dodge that shot as well. This 225 damage, whether you dodge it or not, will trigger its own grace period, so you will be protected against 225 damage and blow for 0.35 seconds. There, I hope this helped. Dodging a shot doesn't increase drama at all. Whenever you dodge, the drama gain used for the equation is set to 0, so it will give you 0 drama as a result. The game needs the damage number you dodge so it can grant you the proper grace period, so drama gain is forcefully set to 0 by the game. Dodge even works during BLEEDOUT health. On higher difficulties, BLEEDOUT health is often exhausted by a single shot. Dodge gives a massive advantage in this stage. You can now fire your gun for longer to cover your revive, distract police attention from your teammates, or continue to do damage in general. And it obviously gives you more time to activate skills like Messiah, should you choose to run it with your build. Dodge just makes everything you use to survive that much better, aside from significantly less drama gain of course. It lets you play more aggressively, provided you have some map and game knowledge to back that up. This video This was a video I intended to make for a year now. My first attempt at explaining any damage mechanic sucks, it has incorrect info, and the info part will be cut out in YouTube editor with the title and thumbnail changed to reflect that. My second attempt at correcting my mistake is executed poorly, so this video will be unlisted. I have been working on this video for the most of the summer, so I'm glad it is done. If you have any questions or found inaccuracies in the video, let me know in the comments. Huge thanks to Carrot for providing most of the commentary at a time I couldn't do it myself. Loose Neck Doom for animated music pop-up, few still images I couldn't find time for, and the accurate voice clip for the Grace part. Not Your Average Stalin for fact-checking crew chief health bonus and helped me out with the green screen stuff. Mr. Creepy for helping out with a few details about DR and DA and assault mechanics. Hoppip for proofreading the entire script for inaccuracies. Nuka-Cola Cherry for providing voice clip for drama segment. And most importantly, Stromboli for providing voice clip for the Graced part with a sexy voice. Music used in the video is the making of a friend of mine, Exasperation, and few artists I like such as JP8K, Stuart Wynn, Lee Jackson, Andrew Holtshot, and Simon Wickland. Links to all of these people are in the description if you want to check their work out. I am very fortunate to have all these people willing to help at any point, and I don't take this for granted. Thanks folks, your help means a lot. The new weapon DLC is around the corner, so yeah, see you next time.